Pakistani officials say the exchange of fire at the Bachakhan University between the army and Taliban has come to an end, with 21 people reported dead. Israel says they have thwarted a shooting attack organized by Hezbollah, which oversaw a militant cell in the northern West Bank. And U.S. Republican frontrunner Donald Trump gets endorsed by former candidate for vice president Sarah Palin. Good afternoon. You're watching I-24 News, here with the hour's headlines. Pakistani officials say the exchange of fire at the Bachakhan University between the army and Taliban militants has come to an end, with 21 people reported killed. Militants stormed the university in Charsada, about 140 kilometers from the capital, Islamabad. Around 50 people have been wounded, though authorities warn those figures could still rise. Tamara Ziv has the latest.
Gunfire and two large blasts were heard at the Bachakhan University in Charsada, Pakistan on Wednesday, in a deadly armed assault claimed by the Pakistani Taliban. Police, soldiers and special forces launched a ground and air operation at the university in a bid to shut down the assault, as television images showed students fleeing the campus.
We heard firing from the back of the campus. We thought maybe some people were fighting. Then the firing increased. Then we said, get into the rooms, don't go out. Then the security forces came. They showed great bravery. The army soldiers also showed great bravery.
Police said the militants, using the cover of thick, wintry fog, scaled the walls of the university some 50 kilometers away from the city of Peshawar before entering buildings and opening fire on students and teachers. Deputy Inspector General Saeed Wazir said 70% of students have been rescued and that some students and staff were still stuck inside the university. He said all students have been evacuated from the hostels.
At this point in time, it's hard to come across an exact figure, but it seems to be upwards of 20 casualties at this point in time, with many more wounded. Security forces are saying that they have eliminated 4 terrorists. However, it's unclear exactly how many infiltrated the university, coming as they did under the cover of heavy fog. The operation, to the best of my knowledge, is still ongoing.
Pakistan, which has suffered from years of militant violence, has killed and arrested hundreds of suspected militants under a major crackdown launched after a massacre of 134 schoolchildren in December 2014 in the northwest. The 2014 school attack by 6 gunmen believed linked to the Pakistani Taliban hit a raw nerve in Pakistan and was seen as having hardened Pakistan's resolve to fight jihadist militants along its lawless border with Afghanistan.
We move to Israel, where security forces say they have thwarted a Hezbollah-led shooting attack which oversaw a terror cell in the Tulkarm area of the northern West Bank. This according to Israel's security agency, the Shin Bet. Mahmoud Zalul, the leader of the cell and resident of Tulkarm, was recruited online by Jawad Nasrallah, the son of the Hezbollah leader. According to the Shin Bet, Hezbollah directed the cell to carry out terror attacks using explosive belts and gather intel about the movement of Israeli security forces in the area.
So for the last several years, it tries to recruit either Israeli Arabs or Palestinians living in the West Bank and entice them to commit terror acts against Israeli soldiers and civilians. One of those in charge of this file was Samir Kuntar, who was killed by the Israelis several weeks ago. Another one, it turns out, is Jawad Nasrallah. He is not only the son of Hassan Nasrallah, but also the brother of Hadi Nasrallah, who was killed in combat with the Israeli forces in South Lebanon several years ago. Apparently, there were 2 modes of communications here. One was overt online, and the other one was a secret channel in which the 5 recruits were told to gather information about the movements of Israeli troops and about installations and prepare suicide bombings and fire on Israeli targets. The Shin Bet intercepted those communications and apparently is going to present the evidence in court.
The Islamic State group released late last night 270 of more than 400 civilians abducted in the eastern Syrian city of Deir ez-Zor. This according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The monitoring group said women, children under 14 years old and the elderly were among those released. They were set free after undergoing questioning by IS militants to determine whether they had ties to the Assad regime. 130 civilians, mostly teenagers and adult men, are still being held. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is due to hold talks on Syria with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Zurich. Russia, a staunch ally of Assad, has launched a campaign of airstrikes against Islamic State militants and in support of the Assad regime. Peace talks between Syria's government and opposition are set to begin on January 25th. However, UN diplomats say it looks increasingly likely that the UN-brokered talks will be delayed. The Islamic State group confirmed yesterday the death of a British extremist Jihadi John, who they say was killed in a November drone strike in their de facto capital, Raqqa. I-24 News has more.
If an American decline were to happen or American withdrawal were to happen, the concern that everybody has is that it would leave a void. And whenever you have a void or a vacuum, evil forces flow into that vacuum, and we have a more unstable international system, which then leads to more warfare in order to rectify this instability. There are two things that we don't negotiate over in Saudi Arabia: our faith and our security. We will do whatever we need to do in order to protect our people and our nation. And then today,
in the latest from the United States, former nominee for Vice President Sarah Palin endorsed Republican frontrunner Donald Trump yesterday, saying the controversial former businessman is the most suitable candidate to lead the country. ABC News has more.
I would like to bring up, if I might, Governor Sarah Palin.
Tonight, Sarah Palin is back.
Are you ready to make America great again?
Shaking up the Republican race with just 13 days to go before the Iowa caucuses.
And are you ready to stump for Trump? You ready for a commander-in-chief who will let our warriors do their job and go kick ISIS? Not a politician. Can I get a hallelujah? Doggone right we're angry, justifiably so.
The two former reality show stars have been close for years. Palin sitting down for New York pizza with Trump in 2011 as she pondered her own run for the White House.
How about a Trump-Palin ticket?
That sounds exciting.
Trump recently appearing on Palin's talk show where she sang his praises.
And this is a movement, the trumpeters, Trumpservatives, these are what these folks are called. Everything about Donald Trump's campaign, it's avant-garde, and he is crushing it in the polls.
Her endorsement now coming at a pivotal point for Trump as Senator Ted Cruz and others attack his, quote, New York values.
Mr. Trump, both Rush Limbaugh and Senator Ted Cruz are warning voters you may not be a real conservative. What do you say to that?
Well, I am a real conservative, and Russia has been terrific to me.
Now Trump is counting on Palin to rally Republican skeptics, especially key evangelical voters. Trump's big win today, a big blow to Cruz. When he ran for Senate, Palin was one of his biggest supporters.
You know what? She can pick winners. Let me tell you something. I would not be in the U.S. Senate today if it were not for Governor Sarah Palin.
In New Hampshire today, Cruz trying not to sound disappointed.
So regardless of what Sarah decides to do in 2016, I will always remain a big, big fan of Sarah Palin.
And on the Democratic front, Bernie Sanders is beating Hillary Clinton by a staggering 27 percentage points among Democratic primary voters in New Hampshire. This according to a new poll by CNN. Since late November and early December, the Vermont senator expanded his lead by nearly 20 points. As the primary approaches on February 9th, Sanders has been the consistent leader in the polls of the first-in-the-nation primary state, and this is his largest margin of any poll in the race. And that wraps up our news bulletin. Join us again in 20 minutes for more updates. Thank you for watching. Pakistani officials say the exchange of fire at the Bachakhan University between the army and Taliban has come to an end, with 21 people reported dead. Good afternoon. You're watching I-24 News, here with the hour's headlines. Pakistani officials say the exchange of fire at the Bachakhan University between the army and Taliban militants has come to an end, with 21 people reported killed. Militants stormed the university in Charsada, about 140 kilometers from the capital, Islamabad. Around 50 people have been wounded, though authorities warn those figures could still rise. Tamara Ziv has the latest.
Gunfire and 2 large blasts were heard at the Bachakhan University in Charsada, Pakistan on Wednesday, in a deadly armed assault claimed by the Pakistani Taliban.
Israel says they have thwarted a shooting attack organized by Hezbollah, which oversaw a militant cell in the northern West Bank. And U.S. Republican frontrunner Donald Trump gets endorsed by former candidate for vice president Sarah Palin.
Police, soldiers and special forces launched a ground and air operation at the university in a bid to shut down the assault, as television images showed students fleeing the campus.
We heard firing from the back of the campus. We thought maybe some people were fighting. Then the firing increased. Then